you prepare for your shows when you're ready to do a feature or hosting shows?
Yeah, man, it's the same process, man. Every day is the same process, man. For me, it's a meditation process, and it's going over my notes to make sure that that I'm conveying the message that I want to get across, and making sure that people are having a good time, that people are learning something, that people are being able to take something away from the space that they didn't have coming in. So that's my objective every time I touch a stage, man. It's just to make sure that people leave with something, not just entertain them, because I'm past that space. You know, I'm in the edutainment or the infotainment world, right? So that means that I'm gonna take this information and I'm gonna put it into consumable capsules for you, and it's gonna be your medicine. And you're gonna have a good time, but most importantly, you're gonna be able to leave there with something that's worth leaving with.
Do you have any poems that you hate saying now that everybody say, can you do that poem for me? That you just said it so many times you just don't even want to say it?
Not at all. Not at all. Because if they want to hear it, I want to give it to them. And like the biggest thing is, you know, understanding what the people want from you as a spoken word artist. Now, and I want to be clear about, it's not about compromising who you are as an artist, but we do have a responsibility to the people that we're in front of. So it's a balancing act. Being an artist is about balance. It's not about just doing what you want to do as an artist, right? Because going back into the difference between being a poet and a spoken word artist is, as a poet, you can create in your space in the dark or whatever, and you just put it out. You know, there is no crowd reaction. You know, you can have it published, and then they'll be able to tell you, you know, online or what have you. But it's still your choice exclusively what you want to do. You know, but when you cross the line into being a spoken word artist, it's about your connection to the crowd. It's about knowing your crowd. You know, it's about providing them with an experience. You're in a service role, so we have to understand that.
Well, what was your goal when you first started doing poetry?
My goal when I first started doing poetry was just to express myself and get that point across, to free myself from these thoughts and ideas that didn't serve me, or that did serve me. So it's always been about duality. It's always been about polarity. You know, we live that type of existence. So our job is to be true to it.
What would you tell yourself, the younger version of you? What information would you give yourself to an up-and-coming poet, or 10 years ago to the younger, or 20 years ago to you when you first started doing poetry? What's some information you'd have told yourself?
3 things, man. Three things. Be true to the art form, meaning study it. Number 2, be true to yourself as an artist, meaning that whatever's on your mind, express it. And number 3, understand the business of art and the art of business. Those are the 3 things that I would have said to myself, and from preparing for what I do now as an artist, and building those habits, man.
If somebody asked you to do a 30-minute seminar on anything, what would you do a seminar on?
Oh man, shoot, man, 30 minutes. I can talk about anything for 30 minutes, man. I can talk about the color of your hair for 30 minutes. But you know, that's what we do as thought leaders and poets, and you know, we take anything and we turn it into art. We turn it into a conversation. But man, I would just talk about the holistic nature of everything.
Okay,
Right.
we'll do this then. Break that down. You got 30 minutes to break down whatever you want to break down. I'll be quiet, just listen to you.
All right, man.
We're at like
Whoever,
everybody listening to you is your class. You break down some of the things you would want young sisters and brothers to know.
Right.
Just talk to them.
One of my biggest things is having people understand how we are constructed. Right, and this applies to art. This applies to life. This applies to your existence. Period. First and foremost, it's understanding that we have a holistic nature. So what does that mean? I know lifestyle is becoming real important now with health and how we consume things, whether it's food, environment, so forth and so on, even in a social setting. So let's get to what we're talking about with a holistic nature. So holistic with a W, holistic, WHOLISTIC. We're all holistic, and that means that we have a spirit, a mind, and a body, right? And I'm not focusing on any specific thing religiously. I'm focusing on everything in its whole nature, right? So with us having a spirit, mind, and body, and I've heard it in different ways. I've heard mind, body, and soul, so forth and so on, but it's all an improperly arranged idea of what it is to be holistic. First, we have an energy inside of us that we refer to as spirit. Then that spirit tells our mind what to do. Our mind tells our body what to do. Right? So coming from a creative space, I understand that every thought is a thought that originated from somewhere. Right? So what we do with that thought is based on our internal program. Right? And with that being the case, with our internal program, that internal program tells you how your mind is going to process the things around you. Some of us may call it awareness, right? So from that awareness, we have action or movement. And those cycles right there happen throughout our lives, right? But we don't know what the program is, and we don't know what's making the calls. So we can't see what's important. We can't see what to put first, second, third, fourth, so forth, right? So when we understand that there is a priority and what to put first, like the thought happens before the feeling happens before the action or manifestation. So when we're able to do that, when we're able to take that stuff and arrange it properly, then we'll say, okay, well, this is less important than this. This is more important than this. So when you're able to do that consistently in your life, now you're able to get results, right? So results is something that can be passed along, right? So if you do it persistently and consistently enough, you're able to say, okay, this is a result that I have based on this. So now from that space, we get things like principles, right? If you're able to get a certain amount of results based on X, Y, Z, now you have principles. And oftentimes we mix principle and circumstance, two different things. One is greater than another, right? So now at a lot of my workshops and, even what I do as a poet, I include people. So I ask questions. Like if I were to ask you what is more important, a principle or a circumstance, what would you say?
No, it's the principle.
Right. Absolutely. Some people, they don't know the difference between the two. Right. So just to give you an idea of the difference in between the two, it's simple. Regardless of what time we're in, the principle is going to stand. So I don't care if it's 1919 or 2019. The principle stands. The circumstances may change, and that's where we lose it. Because I hear it all the time, regardless of what the conversation is. Oh, it's a different day and age. It's a different time. Well, so, okay, if it's a different time, that tells me that the circumstance doesn't work. So what about the principle? Right?
Right.
So those are not the conversations that we have on a regular basis. But we don't have conversations about the principle and what that is and how to operate.
Right. It's almost like somebody say, numbers don't lie.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Right. So now, from that point, we have to question where these numbers coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we got to question who's giving the numbers. Now the numbers themselves are just numbers, but numbers mean something. Right. So who's creating the context? What is the context? Right, so we have to ask a certain amount of questions to know whether or not we're getting information that's worthy of our attention. And oftentimes we don't do that. Tradition says that we don't do that, right? A lot of times when we're youngsters, we're told, hey, don't question that. Especially in our community. Just do as I tell you. But what's wrong with asking a question? Like if it's an honest question that I don't know, it's going to allow me to know something. Right? So why is that a bad thing? So, we have to challenge ourselves in this way. So getting back to the holistic nature of all of us, our holistic nature says that we should question everything. Right? We're connected to everything. So the question is how? How are we connected to everything? Right. See, I got on a ring right now. That's there's copper here, and there's zebra jasper. Right. So these two things create a frequency. Right. And either I'm connected to that frequency or not, in my mind, but I know that I'm connected to it. See, this stone right here represents grounding, right? My connection to Mother Earth, right? Copper is a conductor of energy, right? So this thing is conducting energy, so where is the energy coming from? There's always a consistent flow of energy, right? So we have to understand that there's always a connection point. We have to understand what that connection is. See, but our issue oftentimes is we say that we're different, right? And just like I said earlier, I'm not like other poets. And also I am like other poets. There's a duality. But I understand how I'm connected to the whole. Poetry was here before me, it's going to be here after me. Poets were here before me, they're going to be here after me. All right, I work with young folks that are poets. I've learned from people that have been doing this for longer than I have, right? It's a microcosm of life. So what we have to do is understand what the connection is. If there is a difference, it's not for the sake of being different. It's for the sake of uniqueness. So what is that actually saying? That's saying that there's something to be learned, right? So if we're all the same, and you're just like me, I can't learn from you. Right? But you're just different enough for me to be able to question who you are, bump that up against who I am. You can do the same, and now we can learn something from each other. Duality. Right? So it's the understanding of these things that puts us in a different space as a creative. It puts us in a different space as a person. Right? Because if the idea is to become the best version of ourselves, then the question is, how do we do that? How do I become the best version of myself? See, I told you earlier, I wrote a book, A Great Experience Based on Pain, right? I had two options. I could learn from that scenario or say, oh, the hell with them. They weren't right for me anyway. And never own my stuff. Right? So my thing is I'm going to examine everything. Okay, well, what did I do wrong? Okay, what did they do wrong? Okay, what did they do right? What did I do right? I'm examining everything. So when you take information off the table, you rob yourself of the ability to learn from the whole entire scenario.
Most definitely.
So when you put everything on the table, now you're not missing any part of the lesson. So it's a microcosm, right? So it's a microcosm for life in its entirety, your holistic life, right? Because everything is actually one thing, and that's the essence of what it is to be holistic. My physical body is actually spirit and movement. My mind is actually spirit manifesting feelings to come up with an action. It's all one thing, but we can call it different things if we want to, but it's all one thing. So once we learn what's important, once we learn what the priority is, we can take things and we can put them in the right priority so we can get the right results. So now, I wrote something in my book. I talk about the recipe for wisdom. There's a recipe for wisdom, right? But we first have to identify some things. So first, knowledge is not just information. Information is information, right? So when you do something with the information, it becomes knowledge, right? So when there's some application to information, it becomes knowledge, right? So now you can know this, right? Because this information was put in a book, so now it's in a format. So now knowledge plus action, or knowledge plus application, is power. Knowledge ain't power. Knowledge can simply be information on a shelf that's collecting dust, right? So when you got knowledge plus action, you get some power, because now you know what information to apply, right? You know what information to apply to be able to get some power. So now, what's wisdom? Knowledge plus action plus power gives you wisdom. Why? Because when you know what to do with information, you're able to put some muscle behind it, make that information move to be able to get some power. Now I can take that power and put it in a packet and give it to my family, my brother, my son, so they can use it, right? Still, so how is it wisdom? I'm taking something and packaging it and giving it to you with your own. It goes back to what I was saying. We're different and the same, but there's something that makes you unique from me. But if I can give you something in a packet and say, here, this is for you and your son and your family, so forth and so on. If you can take that and get a result from it, that means you can teach your son to do the same, because I just gave you some information that I had. That's how wisdom flows.
What about the people who don't want to take the information? Break that down, because sometimes ego get in the way of taking the information.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The ego robs us of knowledge. The ego robs us of. What I'll say it better this way.
Is it ignorance?
Moving backwards. No, the ego can actually be useful. The ego is a survival mechanism. The ego puts you in the center of the universe, right? That says that I'm the most important thing in my world, and to a degree, that's true. Like, you need that to survive. What's the first law of nature?
Self-preservation.
Self-preservation. So if you don't see yourself as important to the universe, then why would you preserve yourself? So the ego is useful for that. It's a tool for survival. Now, it either stays in its proper perspective or it swells and it becomes something else. See, that's where the ignorance is involved, because now you the only person in your universe, period. Ain't nobody else there. See, that's got to be replaced with something. So what replaces it? Right? So what replaces it is pride. Right? So pride itself is just a state. Right? Foolish pride is ego. But if I said something like black pride, now that includes a diaspora. Right? So now when you have the correct sense of pride, now I don't only have me in the center of the universe. It's me, my family, my community, my village, my world. Right? So that becomes a greater version of yourself right there. Because it's not just me, it's everything that's connected to me. It's everything that I'm connected to.
Most definitely.
That's the spiritual outlook.
This stronger than this all day.
All day. All day. So that's how we have to see these things, and that's what we have to make a priority to be able to live out our purpose. It's understanding that we're holistic beings, and what that means is that we have a spirit, a mind, and a body that connects to other spirit, minds, and body. There's a priority. There's principle. All right, so we can beat the circumstance all day as long as we operating on principles. Right, so the things that we're not able to conquer or beat is because where's the principle coming from? Did we ever learn the principle? Or are we just gonna continue to struggle with these circumstances?
Right. Do me a favor. What I want you to do, because it's nobody we can, like, we don't have this live, so somebody can't reply. Give me a principle and give me a circumstances to that principle, so people can get exactly what you mean.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, give me a metaphorical story, so they can understand what you're talking about. Cause I understand it, but we gotta make sure they get it.
Right. So I wrote a book about love, right? Right. So love is a principle, right? But we treat love as a circumstance. So let me go deeper into that. I talked to many couples and many people that said, well, love don't work. Sure, I haven't seen it around me. If my mom and daddy didn't love each other, they just had me. Right? My love, it worked for a little while in the relationship that I was in. So, my question is this. Is it the love that didn't work? Or was it your lack of definition or how to identify? Because you just told me that the environment that you came out of, you didn't see it. You told me that the very people that raised you or that bore you did not have it. So where did you get it from? How did you learn that what you were doing was love? Yeah, you felt it. Yeah, it was an emotional exchange, but we all know that emotion is temporary. It's energy in motion. Energy moves, it flows, right? So, if you didn't have a recipe for it, if you didn't see it, if you don't have a way of defining it, it's going to elude you. It's going to become a circumstance. Like our relationships, they become circumstances and not principle, right? So if love is a principle, it resides over the circumstance. So if me and my wife are in love, we have to submit to the love that's above both of us. So regardless of my circumstances and where I came from, regardless of her circumstances and where she came from, we have to both submit to the principle that's greater than both of us. So we have to become a student of that thing that we call love, that we know absolutely nothing about because we've admitted it, right? So if the people that taught us about life in general didn't have it, where do we get it from? So that's a microcosm of what I'm talking about when I say principle versus circumstance. What is that? How does it operate? It has a recipe because some people make it work. See, I had the ability to sit down with people that have been together for 20 to 60 years was the eldest couple. Prove to me that it worked. So I have a chance to sit down with therapists and spiritual leaders that are married, right? So once we understand that there is a such thing as a recipe for things that we claim not to have a definition, if it doesn't have a definition, we can't attain it. Because principles, we have to be able to evaluate, to dissect, to see what the elemental breakdown is, right? And if it has no definition, we're searching in the dark.
I feel that 100%.
Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, and I feel like the way you broke it down, I feel like the viewers should be able to get it also. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to tell the world?
Oh man, we covered a lot, man. We covered a lot, man. The biggest thing, man, that I look to do as an artist is simply this: have people understand that what you have and who you are is enough.
I feel that.
Right? So, you have the ability to decide, though, whether it is enough or whether it's not. But it's your decision. Success is one of those things that's defined by the individual.
Give everybody your social media and everything you got working on and things you got coming up.
Absolutely, man. My social media is sincere, and that's SINSEAR SINCERE. And there you'll find what I do, who I am. You'll be able to see the movement and what that's all about. You'll be able to find links to my book and see the different apparel that I have going on as far as the creative concepts that I come up with. In the future, we working on some online information. You can reach out to me as a relationship coach. You'll be able to see the 30 love laws in all this splendor. And look for me in and around the city. I like to connect with who's out there. I don't want you to just see what I'm doing. I want to see what you're doing.
Yeah, before we go, I want to ask you, would you be able to do another poem for me?
Yeah, let's see. Shoot, man, I got a short one. I don't think that. Shoot, let's see, man. Did I remember that one?
If not, we can keep it moving.
Yeah,
it's okay. I mean, you gave us enough, man.
Yeah. This is something. This is something that I want the people to have. Though.
Okay.
So we're gonna break protocol just a little bit, man. So hold on for 1 second.
Give us 1 second.
Yeah, so one of the things, man, that I have to do is make people think. That's one of the biggest joys that I have as a poet, to make people get outside of the box that we've created as far as thought is concerned and own their own thought process. So I've been working on a series of short poems, but I have to give people this one here. Because there are certain things that we take for granted, or there are certain things that we're taught that we never question. So this is for the people. This is what I want to leave you with. The devil's greatest trick is having you believe it exists. And if perception is reality and we can create reality, then why is the perception not to believe the deception?
YeahThisMilk, starring Sincere. We're killing ignorance one conversation at a time. Be safe.
Peace, love, and sin.